If you have installed, then I would like you to try out one thing, which is here, this command over here at your terminal, pip install Jupyter. Tonight, we're going to use the Jupyter as part of a tutorial over here. Okay. So if you have installed Jupyter and you have a Visual Code, this is probably what you have. By all means, if you have it, the web version, that's okay with me, as long as you have the Jupyter to work with. So quick hands over there. How many of you do not have a Jupyter right now and you would like to have some time to install? If you have the thing installed, then probably I'll say that we'll just go back to here and have this, okay? Have this screen over there. So this is basically a Jupyter notebook, okay? Probably we're going to talk about a little bit about black magic in Python. Let's see how we're going to deal with 101 tonight. So as a starting exercise again, we mentioned about how to add a number. So I can write a quick hand something like this. So let's analyze this. And probably you have heard of this whole list comprehension. Oops, where's the error? Here. So again, yes. So what does this command tells me, or what does this script tells me? This script actually tells me few things which we like to look at tonight. So one thing that we're going to look at here is something that we call as list comprehension. So list comprehension has a structure like this. You have a list, and then you have a execution statement. Okay. Now, what does this execution statement tells me? So, for example, when you write it in a very conventional way, let's say in the ways of C or C derivative languages like JavaScript or Java or maybe a little bit of other languages which I don't know, what we write normally we write in this way. Even Python can allows me to write in this way. So let's say I write in this way, which means in this case, it means you generate number from 0 to 16, no, to 15. So it generates number for this, and it is stored in Python's object that you call as generator. Or some people call that iterator. So there's few things that we talk about for iterator, where we have generator, list, okay, list, and you have dictionary. Those are called the iterator. Okay, so we're going to look at that one by one from there. So what does this over here tells me? So for conventionally, we can write in this way, where if we have a list, let's say we call this A as the list, or we call that just a number, 0, define. So what we're going to do next will be A add up with I and then square of 2. So we keep the loop running and then we print the A. So if we run this, of course, this will give me error. It gives me the same answer. Okay, but sometimes people will say that, oh, okay, this is not quite a Pythonic and this keeps doing all the things. So can we write in a simple way? Yes, we can do it. And the operations that we have up there is what does this line tells me over here? This line actually tells me that give me, okay, give me a list and then generate x square from 0 to 15. That is something that we call a list statement just now, because you use this as a loop to generate the number from 0 to 15. By all means, of course, you can write it as 1 to 15, which I can change here from 1 to 16, meaning that I generate the numbers from 1 to 15. So if I change the number and then I print it again, it should give me the same answer. So that's the first thing. Okay, and it's going to be very useful for those who wants to write something that is quick for here. Okay, because you don't need to create a loop and then you have a number and just put it in. So from there, when I generate this, and there's a handy function that comes in Python standard libraries. So what you need to do is you just need to do such. You generate a list. So the note over here is you generate a list and add a list. Okay, so that is one thing from that. Okay, so questions for now on? Any questions from the floor?
Not a question, but James, it'd be great if you can enlarge a bit your screen.
Okay, let me try. Is it good?
Okay, I think that should be okay.
Okay. Now there's another black magic that I actually like about generators, because generator is not just for lists. So my quiz over here for you guys to think about that is, can we can we generate a tuple comprehension? Can we generate a tuple comprehension? If we have a list comprehension, can we get a tuples comprehension? Okay, just for your knowledge, tuples will be a symbol that looks like this, where I can write it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So can we do something like this? Okay, can we do something like this? No, I'm not interested in taking surveys. Anyone? Can we do something like this?
Like no,
Huh?
no, it's no,
Why? Why not?
because I purpose immutable or
Okay, okay. You mentioned something about immutable. Can you just explain a little bit to the class what does it mean by immutable in this case? Just a brief, very simple words. What does immutable tells you?
is it something that cannot be replaced or
Sorry?
no, something that cannot be changed or is it? Sure.
Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. So in this case, when you write this, okay, let me just enter this. It'll give you a question over there. Ah, of course, this will give you problems. No. Let me just give you this. Yes. Okay. So give you something. Oh. Valid syntax. No, you can't do this. Okay, so partly is because of immutable. So what does immutable means? Immutable means, in this case, let's say, so I'll just create that D is equals to B in this case. Okay, B is equals to this number. So can we add something to that? Okay, so for the list, let's say for the list, it's very simple. If we want to add the thing, we just append one, and then we have the thing in there. Okay, you can have the things over there easily. Yes, I have append one. But for lists, for tuples, there's no way that you can do that. Let's say if I want to do append. Tuples has no attribute for append, meaning that you can't add things easily to tuples simply. Okay, so this statement in a way is invalid for C. It's invalid. So you can't do anything at all. But if, let's say, you do want to use tuple and you don't want to define it, for example, in some cases where try to load this program into it, and then you try to look at, oh, how can I store a certain numbers in terms of it, and I don't want to get my hand dirty to type the numbers. How can I do that? So the way that I do it is a black magic, which I use the list comprehension. I do it as a list, and then I cast it. So if I cast it, there's no issue with that. Syntax error again. Say I generate a tuple right now. There's no problem with that. But of course, your textbook will tell you one thing, or your books that you have will tell you something. Oh, tuples cannot be changed, or tuples cannot be manipulated, or anything. Oops. Okay. Okay, sorry. Yep. So actually, you can do that. So let's say if I want to do adding out of the tuple, from that, if you have two tuples over there that want to add up, so you can do just this. Oh, it up. Something wrong with it. Okay. So you can. Oh, okay. Now I know why. Let me try this. Oh, they might have new updates to it. In always, it doesn't allow this anymore. Okay. Now the idea over here is that this expression, I think this is that they have a new features which I don't know over here. Okay, now this features over there is you're generating two tuples, and then you join them together as a new object. I think this is the new features. But for the old one, for the old Python, if you have that, this operation actually is not allowed. Actually, they won't allow two tuples to join together. So normally, what we do for tuples is that we use the list comprehension, and then we cast it to tuples, and then this is how we do it normally in this case. So you can safely write a tuple easily by generate a number from list comprehension, and then you change that into a tuple. So there's not nothing from that, uh, meaning that yes, you're right. You can't have a tuple comprehension, but we can write a list comprehension and then goes to that. So meaning in this case, you can also look at for those who are more into the lambda expression. This is the same thing that you can do as well. I mean, and I can do it in this way, which I can cast it first just to be safe. Yep. So you can do it in terms of using the lambda expression as well. If you're like, so basically list comprehension and the lambda expression, or you call that functional way of writing, they are quite the same, but just that in terms of Python, this is much more interesting in terms of how you write the the list comprehension and tuple. Okay. Now another question that probably we can ask ourselves: do we have a deep comprehension? Do we have a deep comprehension over there? Anyone? Can we do a deep comprehension? Okay. Now sometimes we have this. It could be a situation like this: A, if we write in this way, Okay, so one thing that we can do is, okay, just give it a name. So one way that normally we do is we zip this. Okay, let's see. Okay, don't really use it, so not too sure. Yep. So you can write a zip in this way. This is zip means that you get two of the iterators and then form it into a dictionary. But sometimes, let's say, sometimes you have a data set like this. Okay, so you have a data set as such. How are you going to make it into a dictionary? Okay, how are you going to make this into a dictionary? So conventionally, this is what we're going to do. Conventionally, this is what we're going to do when we can write a loop for items in my data, or then we have, this is a pair, so I can write that for items, or we can, oh, okay, I forgot to define uh, my data. Okay, now just for this, I went to a PyCon, and actually they have a way that to define the data, because right now for Python it does not have a type, so meaning that your data somehow can be quite confusing sometimes. So what I'll normally do is, apart from writing down the names, I'll put a data type at the back over there. Okay, so if you look at that number and then I put a did, meaning that this is a dictionary data type. So what I'll do from here is, the second one will be, I'll write that as my data, and then I define the items equals to item one. Then when we're done, print my data type. So this is one way that we do. Whoops. This is how we're going to write it into a dictionary. Okay, normally that we can do that. So can we do something like deep comprehension so that we can print out the same ideas as what we do? So one thing that we can do as a deep comprehension will be as such. I can do the same thing. I'll call the loop for items in my data. So what I can do over here is I put the key item 0, and then the sign of it item 1, and voila, it's the same thing. So you can actually do a dictionary comprehension with this easily. You can do that. So I'll consider this as some kind of black magic over there, because I normally like it, because it comes with a so handy with the work, especially when it comes to data analysis. It will be very handy if you know the data type well, and then you write the key things carefully, then you can have that. Now, we have an issue over here right now. So apparently the kitchen key is missing. or just put it in this way. Can we still run this? Okay, let's give it a try. I don't know. There's a problem with this. Okay, key equals to I, so not too sure over here. Okay, so there's a problem over there. Why? Why the result turned out to be this? Because in this case, when you look at the last item, this is a string. This is a string. So he's taking the first item and the second item to do that. So in this case, how are we going to fix this one if this is the case? How are we going to fix this one? If we have such a, maybe we say that this data is corrupted or what? So for the list, we can do the same thing, just that we put a condition over there by using something called is instant. So for those who have been using Python for maybe like 2 years, probably you know this a lot because this is talking about is instant, and then we can use it as a filter. So in terms of a list that when you use the filter, you can write it in this way. So I say that, oh, okay, if as long as the item over there is a couple, okay, so yes, if you look compare with the answer, with the result that we have for the first one and compare with the second one, you find that actually we can use the data to clean that easily. So as simple as that. So for some new Pythons, actually, there's few another way that I just recently learning and then I like it. So what you have over there, this is something that I like and then I use it for work. Okay. So A is equals to list enter. B is equals to, okay. So let's see, will this work? Oops, sorry. Okay, the answer will be 0. Okay, so we actually can avoid this thing. So we don't want it to have some sort of operation. Let's say we don't want this to print out a B. So what we can do over here is we only do the sum if A, else -1. Let's say we want to impose a condition like that. So what does that mean? Now, in a very traditional way, what we do normally is we write down this if A. So this is a Pythonic writing. I know that some of us we tend to write in this way, which is okay. But of course, somebody will come to you and say, "Hey, no, hey, this is not Pythonic." When people say that it's not Pythonic, that means that it's not following the convention of Python. So that's okay. I mean, sometimes when you are learning the language and you write in this way, that should be okay. So there's another way of writing it. And for those who are experienced in Python, you realize that this is something, it means few meanings of that. It means A is not empty. Okay, that leaves true, the condition of true. So therefore, I can do that. So in this way, you can also write it in this way, and then I say, oh, okay, if A is nothing, then I print the sum of the A. Else, print if 1. This is what normally you write. But a new way of writing it, I think probably is 3.6 or 3.7, which is something that I like it here. Sum A, meaning that if A has things, then we can add it, else -1. So right now, if we print it, A, oops, am I writing too fast? Yes. A is equal sum, oh, indentation. Forget about this one. Okay. This is something that we can do it easily. Okay. you can impose such a condition. Because sometimes when you write down your Python code, you have tends to have a lot of if else. The reason for that is you're going to have a lot of if else is Python doesn't comes with does not comes with switch. And for those who has been using other languages such as Go, Java, JavaScript, C, C++, you have a function of a switch. Okay, so you don't tend to have a lot of if else in your Python code. But here comes another question that probably we can talk about. How can we create a switch statement in Python? How can we create a switch for Python? Yes, I hear someone saying something. Go ahead.
Now, I actually tried to recreate switch from C, but I ended up using if else.
That's very normal. That's normal. Yeah. So sometimes using if else is much more intuitive for us because it turns out to be is based on that a rule. So the black magic from here, and this is one thing that I learned from Kage Sensei, yeah, and for others Pythonista in Malaysia, this is what we normally do. A switch function, and there's a black magic that you can do it. So when you talk about list, normally, when you talk about list, anyway, if there's no objection over here, I'm going to tell you all the black magics of Python over here, which normally you don't see in your textbook. Okay, this is considered as a course for the dark side anyway. But it doesn't mean that I'm breaking the rules. I'm just telling you something that probably you never think of. Okay, and this is not something that I use during my work because I want to save my time and then I want to find a shortcut. Okay, now for your dictionary, keep it like this. Dictionary. Normally, what we can do over here in dictionary is as such. Okay, okay. Let's use the same data type. Toilet key. Okay. So why am I writing this? So when you have this, okay, you have a concept that we call cache. In any context, cache for the database, cache for your computer organization, cache for your memory. Basically, you're trying to refrain of the IOPS or the memory consumption, so you create a cache. Now, the black magic over here is remember to use your dictionary well enough. Sorry for my word. Dictionary well enough because dictionary is a very good item. So for those who know this radish or a lot of key value key value database actually use the same concept actually key value database actually use the same concept that you use that to use a key to find the value. Okay, so these are the few things on that. So how can we use this back to the same question? How are we going to use dictionary as a switch from that? So the way first thing, if you have created this thing, of course, by doing taking this as a value as a cache, we can take the thing easily. And this is why I like the dictionary a lot because for conventionally, let's say I find a key, I know the value of one. But for conventionally, for those who are like this, you might like the list where I write in this way. I write in this way, and then I'm going to do a loop to find the value. Okay, I'm looping through to find the value. But sometimes using the key is much more easier because you define the key for the value. Okay, now for those who wants to know about more about in details in the funding about why sometimes key takes more than the list, there's a book that I can share with you, which I have it here. there's one book that I have. So if you happens to see it, this is quite a useful book. Okay, if you have managed to find it, that would be good. And this book has taught me a lot about how to deal better views on the understanding of the data structure and particularly the data structures in Python. And alternatively, you can also go to uh, MIT's website. There's a one course of the data structure and algorithms, and I remember it's a second class that would tells you what are the big O numbers for every data structures for each. So this is how I get the idea over that, where for lists, the big O numbers will be in the orders of n, but for dictionary, if I do not remember wrongly, is in the order of k. And the worst case, this is the normal way, OK. And for the worst situation is ON, something like that. Okay, so finding keys is very interesting. Now, one things for the key is, one thing is about key, why key can be so useful and so quick in terms of that. If you notice that, let me just show you something. And I'm not too sure whether you noticed it. Okay, so probably I can add another one, kitchen key. And let me generate that a few times. Maybe this is not a good example. Master key. Okay, maybe might not have a chance to see it. Okay, now the reason for me to show this is there's a very interesting things about the dictionary where when you look at the orders over here for dictionary, normally it doesn't come in order. I don't know whether you have dealt with that before, but apparently this is not a good example from that because this shows that the key is in the order that we are talking about. But actually, Dick's dictionary in a way actually that don't need to have a key which is in the order dict. So for those who wants to have you want to have dict, then there's another object that you can call is called order dict over there. I think is from the I don't remember the context. I don't remember the object over there. Collection from the collection dot futures import order, something like this. Found, yeah. No, I think probably I didn't install that. Okay, yeah. So there's an object that you can use it for that. So talking about this, okay, back to here. So how do we use that? So normally, if we use that as in terms of what we're seeing over here, which is dictionary comprehension, and then you generate that, save it as a cache, then I can find my things easily. So what I need to know over there is I just need to know what is the key that I'm interested to know. And voila, it gives me the object. So I don't need to know where the thing is. I just need to know the name of the key, then it can give me the value. Rather, sometimes for the list, you have to loop one by one and do a comparisons, and then you find the value. But for this dictionary, things are very simple. You just need to know the names of the key, and then you can retrieve the value that you want. So this turned out to be very simple in terms of how you can make it into cache easily in your script over there, the concept of a cache. And that is certainly will speed up things. And for example, for those who are doing a SQL query, sometimes you might have a duplicate data, okay? And sometimes, let's say you look the data one by one or back to back by doing this, okay? Okay, I want to do something from user, okay? So you want to load the data. So of course, your textbook will tells you, or somewhere that you learn will tells you that, oh, okay, you try to find the things out, put a condition, username, is equal to, okay, so somebody, okay, so that is something that some textbook tells you that, oh, okay, we impose a condition and then you can find the things that you want. But sometimes it is not a luxury that we do on that, because think about that. When you use your local host, things can be easy because it's just local host and then you can find the thing easily. But what if you have a database server, which is maybe, let's say we are in Malaysia right now, and you have a database server which is located somewhere, maybe, let's say in Belarus. So how are you going to retrieve that? Of course, you might argue that, yeah, we do have a quite good cable, and then we have a ping which is below 10 milliseconds. But what if your queries turn out to be really, really, uh, I mean, you have a lot of queries over there. So definitely it's not going to pick up because you have a 10 milliseconds delay over there. So what normally you would do, if you want to use the concept of a dig, what you can do is, I will do it in this way. I'll write this. I'll rather spend a little bit of time loading out my script with all the data and then store it into dictionary. Store it over here. Okay. So from here, if you write your SQL queries correctly, it should end up with something like this. Ah, okay, maybe we do it this way. Okay, if you write it correctly, it should give you, and then you can manipulate your data so that it becomes like this. It becomes something like this. And from there, what I can do easily for now, I don't need to go down to look for what is the ID. I just want to know, oh, okay, give me the ID. Assuming that this dictionary gives me the same thing. And then I just go down by memory to search for the ID. Yes. So you definitely will speed up your queries in terms of that. And you don't need to depend on the other kind of the data type. Let's mean like DB, like key value pair DB. For example, like Redis is one of example, Memcache is one example, few types of it. You don't need to do that. You just need to utilize whatever you have. Because remember, when you work on this, you're working on the environment that you should have enough memory for you to store that. And not to mention that sometimes your database query, okay, it is it is easy for you to pull out the data at one time rather than you keep doing this query all the time. So question over there is, let's say you have hundreds of queries over there at one time. How are you going to make sure that your query is safe enough to, or fast enough to give you all the data over there? So the best way that we do normally is you store this data into a cache and then from that. Now to show you an experience that I have in my workplace over there, okay, and we do use a lot of SQL queries over there. So what my managers want me to do a day is to query a data which contains, we have roughly about 20,000 of the records. And of course, when you do this query on the top over there, you try to retrieve one by one, it's going to be very slow. It's definitely very, very slow because imagine that you each queries you have about 10 milliseconds and you times that with 1,000 and 15,000 record over that. So you time the numbers. So for each back and forth coming back and you times the time, you should know how much time that is spent. So instead of doing this query, eventually what I do over here is I store it in the cache, right? In the cache over here, my so-called cache. Yep. So when you use it as a cache, it will really speed up a lot by that. You definitely speed up a lot. So because you draw the data, let's say you draw the data one shot, and this data gives you, let's say we put the data, and all the data over there maybe just give you about 10 seconds. So you spend a little bit of 10 seconds to pull all the data from here, and then you probably use another 5 milliseconds to process the data and store in the cache. Think about that. So roughly you spend about just about 10.5 seconds over here, rather than this operation, you're trying to pull back and forth. And for 15,000 record, you times the math. Let's say this operation is 10 milliseconds. So you times the math. Okay, so it takes you about 150 seconds compares to this 10.5 seconds. So once you have solved that, the rest is the magic, because the rest will be just a computational script that you comes and then you runs it from there. Simple. So for example, in this case, you know that what is the name of the key. Meow meow is one of it, and then you're trying to say, oh, okay, you have another one, a key, which is maybe we call that a kitchen key, and you can straight away retrieve this thing easily, like taking an 8 from there. It's so simple. Okay, so sometimes do take advantage of what Python has offer from here, because uh, yeah, I definitely know that having a API is very simple. Let's say we have to have a lot of different kinds of API in key relational database from there. But for Python, you do have something that you're being offered within the standard package itself. I mean, why don't you just utilize that so that you can use speed up your script, and then as well as you can utilize, and then of course you can try to impress your reviewer in terms of how you can write speed up the code. Okay, so always remember one thing. Always remember, when you write the code, there's 3 rules that you always need to remember. That will definitely helps you a lot. Okay, so first thing that it calls that there is something called make it work, make it right, make it fast. Okay, this is something that always remind myself to work on that. Okay, make it work means your script is running well, or your Python software is running good. Make it right, making sure that it passed the test, or making sure that on all the occasions that you have over that is give you the correct output. Make it fast. How can you speed up the operations while you're not losing out the first condition, which is work and right? So this is important. So if you can use it, it'll be definitely be very beneficial for yourself, especially for your career. How you can increase improve the quality of your coding in Python over there. Okay, so this is one thing from there. Now we haven't get back really to how to rewrite a switch in Python. Okay, so I'm going to use something over here, which is Uh, stop me, anyone, if you don't understand what I'm typing right now. Okay, anyone? Just a quick hand. Anyone understand what I'm typing right now? Okay, no sounds. I presume that you know the things. So this is a function that you want to find the key, and then you give the key. So of course, in conventional way that we write be this, because there's no switch in Python. So that means we write it in this way. If key name is equals to 1, we no, key name is equals to toilet key, oops, and you say, oh, return. Yeah, I don't want to use return, so I use the buffer name, term key. Term key equals to 1. Now if key name equals to master key, term key equals to 2, and else whatever it is, term key return to 5, and then you say, oh, return term key. Okay, and let me just put it in a more correct way. So in modern ways writing, there's an annotation on that, and then we put this as a string, and it tells me to output it as an integer. Okay? This is a normal way, and there's a error in that, so we define the variable. So these are probably things maybe intuitive to all of us in terms of writing the code. Okay, because it doesn't come with if else. But sadly, in this case, when we look at this code, although the code is readable, but somehow in a way that, oops, no, somehow the code to me, personal view, is a little bit messy. Okay, and not to mention that over here, you allow anything, any key names, and then you return a value of 5. So how can we use this to improve our code? So what are the operations over here? So you define this as a list, and then as long as you have a key inside here to return it from here. Okay. So you put a key on that, but there's a big taboo in this script over here. It'll be a taboo over there. So let's define this, and then we run something. Taboo. So what is the taboo over there? So get key spring, get key. And then I want to say I want to find a key called meow key. Yes. Oh, sorry. Hmm, something is not right over here. Okay, never mind. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Is
Or
dash
something.
greater than?
Sorry.
Is dash greater than?
Oh, greater than and then in or like this.
Dash, not equal.
Oh, dash. Shoot. I've been doing too much
And
languages.
then there's a colon before that should be. The colon, the final, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I forgot. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Now there's a taboo for this thing there. Meow key cannot be found. Okay. There's a taboo on writing this thing. Okay. So how can we fix this thing, this code? Let's say if you want to use this, and you know that this is very handy in a way that I can find the things easily. How can we fix this thing? So one thing from what we have learned before, okay, from what we learned before, I'm going to put something like this. Dictionary data. Just put a name, data. Equals this. Okay, so return, okay, a fix with that. Return data key if key in data dig dot keys, else none. Okay, first thing, this is what the fix that we have. So right now, if we print again, key is not defined. Oh, key name. Okay. You fix the thing. So it won't be accepting taboo's value that you have over there, and yet it sort of becomes your switch easily. Okay, you can fix that. So this is one thing that I actually like from the new version, because in always that I actually what I do rather than writing this way, I actually write if key name is in data dig dot keys and return data key and return none. Okay, so these are the normal ways that you write in terms of that. But with this, the new one, this becomes more uh, concise in a way that you don't need to write a lot of code, but it still makes the thing works from there. It's very simple. So print for sure that there's no taboo from there. So why? Because we have the key, and first thing we generate a key. We go use this to find the keys from here. So simple on that. So from there you can generate anything from there, or you want to use this as a, let's say, a default value. Yes, you can use it as a default value by treating that this is maybe this is -1. Fair enough. Okay, fair enough that when you run that, it gives you a -1 over there. So this turned out to be a very handy thing when you use Python in terms of writing a dish switch over there. Okay, so and it also make your code very tidy in a way that uh, rather than writing a lot of if else, where eventually it costs you to have a lot of headache for others reviewer to read it, this turned out to be very handy, because when people read, you have a function of get key. Oh, what does your get keys use? Oh, okay, so you're trying to find all the different conditions on that. Okay, now here comes the magic time. That magic again. So how do we actually call different method according to the key? Okay, this is the black magic again. So I'm going to write a class, uh, go, just okay, go anyway, go on anyway. Okay, so go anywhere, you have a method, go colon, self, turn, and then define go England, turn England. Yes, I got a message over there. How can I help? Get function to replace get key. Does it work in the same way? Uh, re well, okay. Here comes the. Let me see. Get. Yes, you can do that as well. You can get the key. I mean, there's a taboo for that. There's a taboo for this. Okay. When one thing's, of course, you get key. Yeah, it reminds me of something. When you get key, sometimes you can write as well. Data. Let's say we have this. We just copy it out. Because that is something that normally I don't use for that. I just happens to use that recently. So let's say, shoot, what happened? So you can do this thing. Yeah, you just do a very good example. So let's say if I try to get a kitchen key, that I think this is a built-in data type, which I kind of forgot sometimes. So you can also do such. It will return as none. Okay, this is also a good example. You can also do that. Yeah, return data get key. So meaning that in this case, rather than doing such, we can also maybe by replace that as something something that is very simple. At key. Okay. And then yeah, it should give you the same value from there. And then none of that. Yep. That's a very good suggestion. Yeah, you can do that as well. Now, back to here, which is go anywhere. You have a class in this way. So normally, what we do for the class is you have to do it in this way. Go somewhere equals to go anywhere. Okay, you define that and then print. Oops. Go somewhere undergo England. Yes. Okay. So how can we, let's say, if you want to find the uh, you want to make a if else condition using this. No. Switch condition. How can I do this magic over there? So I got a magic for you for class. In this case, I'm not too sure whether you guys have heard of it. Is something that we call has attribute and get attribute. Okay, these are the two things. And of course, it also comes with another one, set attribute. Okay, and these are the function that normally you use in Python. Okay, but let us just start in a very simple way to start with this. So for here, this is normally that we define in Python, where we start with the instant and then with that. So can we create a crazy writing it in a very crazy way, such that we use dictionary? Okay, so dictionary means that it does not really restrict to one data type, such as Boolean, list, or dictionary, or tuple, or numbers. No, it does not restrict that. Okay, meaning right now, what I can do over here is I have a black magic that I like, where you can actually do this thing. Go anywhere, write down the method that you want to go. Okay, and then you can also do one thing, Holland. Okay, and then I do go anyway dot go Holland. Okay, now print this. Say black magic. You can do it in such a way. Do you need? Well, of course, sometimes you have to define. In this case, we're not defining any attributes to this, so that's okay. We can write this in because we don't have anything that would change the state. So sometimes when it comes to handy, actually, you don't need to define an instant for the class to start with. So we just need to do something, because for every instant that, for every way that you write over here, it actually is defined on that. But of course, the best practice that people will say in this case, for this will be something that advanced for those advanced. For some people will say this is not quite a Pythonic way, because this violates one method that they call it as a static method. So for static method, you just put it this way. So you can write in this way because we treat it as a static method and know that. But it does not restrict us to do that in dictionary. Reason for being that, very simple, because dictionary actually allows us to store anything. Okay, dictionary allows us to store anything. So if this is the case, okay, you can also do this. You can keep the function name in this way because this is a method name. So this is the name. So I can also write a black magic in this way. England. Then I do a method. Voila. You can also do this. Okay. Now everything in Python is object. Everything. For example, right now, if you put a sum, if you print sum, it's a built-in function. So it's an object by itself. So only the time, if you let's say, if I do it in this way, b is equals to sum, then I write that b and sum back goes back to what we have just now. Okay, we say that print. Yep. So you can change that easily because it's that. So all this method actually is an attribute by itself. So you can change it, you can put it in this way and then put a bracket and then from that. But of course, can we do in such a way? For my place, self, then I put a country, return country. Okay, so right now I can do such thing. I'm going to modify this by putting this as anywhere, then go anywhere, go to error, go my place. Okay, so right now anyway, then I say I want to go to Malaysia, and it should give me Malaysia. Yep, so you can do that. So this is sometimes is a quick way that actually, if you can utilize the concept of the dictionary, that you can actually build a different kind of object that helps you to search the thing easily. Because one thing, if we have the code correct, make it work, make it right, and of course we want to make it fast. So these are the small techniques that we have that normally you can use it to speed up your code easily. Apart from, of course, like what I mentioned, using something that is advanced, has attribute, get attribute, and set attribute, those kind of thing. Sometimes for, let's say, for a beginner like us, maybe you have experience less than 3 years. Sometimes knowing a little bit of trick will help you in terms of that. But of course, not trying to say that you can use that to impress a reviewer or anything. But this is something that helps you in terms of how you can get your code to be handy, and then you can utilize the fun thing about what you have in Python in this case. Okay, so we have roughly around 21 minutes, I suppose. So anything that you want to know throughout this, except for this black magic, anything, you can leave a message or you tell me in terms of what you have. Oh, Kage is here. Oh, sorry. Oops, we have the master. Yep. So anyone wants to learn something, or you still feel like you want to know something? Anyone? Like you have a questions that you feel like you want to ask? Yes.
Uh, Hi.
Yeah. Hi.
Actually, I'm interested in learning the has attribute and set attribute thing.
Okay. Cool. So since you asked that, now this is crazy, and if you know this, your life is going to be. People normally will call you a Sikh. I won't call Sikh, but that side master. So what has this to do? So let's say we get back to here, and then we copy this. Okay, let's say we copy this. And okay, so we define that we have an instant on that. There's a black magic that I can teach you also from here. So go somewhere and you can ask Adrian about the story. Yeah, I found out that it was 8 a.m. in the morning. I was so thrilled, and then I told Adrian, "Oh, you see, I found out something that is very interesting." So go somewhere is equals to go anywhere from there. And normally, what we want to write from that is we always do something like this: go somewhere and go Holland. Okay. Yes, someone ping. I want to ask dictionary key always the string type. Good question. No. For this demo, of course, I'll use the key. You can use integer, you can use the Boolean or anything. Remember, you have to remember one concept in Python over here. Everything in Python is object, okay? Including your integers. They are objects. Meaning that right now, you don't have a constraint of whether you have to define it as long, double, no, sorry, long, or long 64 bits, long 64 bits. No, there's no such thing. Everything is object. Okay, so you have to remember that. So including your boolean is also object from that. So you can define whatever things that is good enough. But of course, in the dictionary, you can't define a list inside that, like using a list as a key, because a list is not a unit unless you can find a way. I mean, to my knowledge, I know that is not possible. But if you can find a way to enter the pointer of that list, most likely you can word that. But I haven't really tried out on that part. So this is why. Yeah. So for now, you can try Boolean. You can use the string and integer. Float, I haven't really tried float before, but you can try it. Most likely, it's not going to give you an accurate number because the float in Python is actually quite not reasonable in a way. Okay, so probably the normal usage should be either Boolean or they use string as a key. Okay, because it's more defined. Now back to here. This is what we normally would do. Okay, so first thing that I'm going to use on that is okay, has attribute. So I'm going to find out has attribute over there. So I'm going to print has attribute. What does attribute means over there? So every names, the methods that you have, for example, if I define self.default country is equals to let's say I say that okay, default country will be Malaysia. Okay. So we can have a method over here, which is we say go default. And we have return self default country. Okay, so all these are attributes. So as long as it ends with a self, ends with anything that with self, you call that attribute. Okay, so for example, right now we want to check something. Has attribute go somewhere, and then we put a string name. We say that we want to find a default country. Does it exist? Here. Okay, so I'm printing that. False. No, there is. Why do you say false? No, it's wrong. Oh, mistake. Yeah, see. So it means that you're trying to find out from this class over there and trying to find a method which is called or attribute in this context tells me whether you have this country. So it will return true because you do have a attribute that calls default countries. But here comes the magic over there. Can we find this thing? Go my place. The answer is yes. You can write it's true again because you have that. Now, once we have that, we can do such a thing. Okay, we can write that in a very in a dark side way where eventually you sort lost yourself. You can do that. Get attribute go somewhere, and you find the method. I know that method would there go my place. Okay, and here comes the magic. Okay, go my place. If you look at here, it has country over there. So I'm going to print that out because it's going to return something. And then right now I'll say I want to go to Philippines. I'm afraid I might spell that wrongly. We have a double P or single P. See that? See that? Okay. Now you're actually using the get attribute method to access the method over here. Use the get attribute. So this will actually means the same thing as here. Self, it means go, print, go, somewhere, dot, go to my place, Philippines. So it is actually the same thing as here. Okay, so this is kind of black magic that you can use actually. Okay, now another black magic that I'm going to demo from here. Okay, another demo, but I only tried that with the class before. So what I want to do over here is I'm going to insert a method. And this is why sometimes people say that the Python is not a very safe language, okay, because you can do injection. But how are we going to do injection? Or somewhere, okay. So I'm going to do something. Set, I use the set attribute, go somewhere, put a name, go uh, Russia. Okay, go Russia. And yes, okay, go Russia. And then from there, print go somewhere dot go Russia. Oops. So you say error. Wait, where does the error comes from? Oh, okay, yep, Russia. Forgot the name. So set that, and then right now, print go somewhere go Russia. Russia. Yes. So you have to successfully inject a method into that. You have successfully inject a value over that, which means with this action over here, you're actually adding something over here. You're adding a method by calling something called go Russia over here. Then this equals to the value of Russia. You have successfully done that. Okay, but can't remember there's a one way I actually did something in one of my project over there by doing a set attribute, and then I actually can change the method inside that. I remember I used some kind of a lambda expression over there to do it. Yeah, so it's somewhere in my GitHub. If you want to check that, uh, this is my GitHub. So I think it's under this project Python SQL client, and I use that in one of the methods for that. Now, to me, reading my GitHub is not the point, but rather there's something that I actually would like to share with you guys. Okay, where it has a very good application on how to use all this thing. Okay, let me show you something. Okay, so this is something that I actually find out very fun. Python code, and this is to me, this is the key idea of how you actually use the has attribute, set attribute, and then get attribute. Yeah. So this is the fun thing. And then I also get the same idea from here by here. Now, before looking at the source code over there, this one thing that has a very good example. Okay, see, what we do over here is you set a class for the command of turtle to move. So you can move forward, do backward, blah, 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 do. So if you notice this carefully, by the way, I'll post this in the group. Okay, so not recommend to store the SQL queries on that because you're causing yourself to cost to have a SQL injection, so not recommended. But rather the examples that I showed just now is you storing the data into the cache. Okay, so it's not recommend. In fact, a lot of good practice over that is never ever store your SQL queries in the scripts. Okay, even when you write Django. So this is why for Django or any kind of web application, they always push for ORM. But there's a problem with the ORMs because ORM generally consume more memories because you turn everything to objects. So this is why someone will come over and tells you, oh, hey, for simple projects, don't use ORM. But my opinions on that is, if you have something that handy and really small, then by all means, SQL query might be fast. But in terms of security, I'll still recommend using the ORM. Okay. So this is one of the commands that I have over there to show with you guys from that. Okay. So if you look at the code over here, you have a lot of do. Okay. And then pass argument. Now see, this is the command line that we have normally. A command line that is written in Python. And what you have in the command over there is you have by color, go to blah, 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 record, turn right, turn left. And if you look at this carefully, we have the word focus on two words over there, right. Okay. And then you have playback, right, playback. And then we do have a record over there. So how does this command prompt knows the command of each other? Okay, for example, if you enter a word record, how does this know needs to record the command? Or how does this, let's say, if I put a forward 100, how does it know it's going to move 100 steps? So if you look at this, these are the steps that you have. So you have do forward, and then it says move forward by blah, 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 pass argument, do this right, and know that. So the details of this, okay, if you got the time and if you like to explore further, you can look at this. There's one line down there actually that really blows out my mind in terms of how you use the concept of the has attribute and here. Yeah, this line. Okay, this line over here, line 172 to 190. So you can have a good read over there. Then you know, and this is also the line, get pass line. And you notice that there's one thing that you have over here, which is has attribute, I think, or here. Get attribute. This is one thing that you can read. So it really turns out to be very useful if you know how to play around it, and then it does help you to know how things goes around with has attribute as well as the get attribute. Yeah. Okay. So if you can just go through this code from there, and you definitely will benefit a lot on how to use in terms of set attribute, get attribute, and has attribute and all that. Any questions? We still have. Are you sharing something still at the Jupyter notebook? Yes, I shared it actually on the meeting details over there, so you can go there. So I actually didn't do much on my Jupyter over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mm.
Uh,
Okay. Yeah, I think this is actually one thing. I mean, the reason for me to put my GitHub over there is not to show off, but there's one thing that for this thing, the project of that, and if you happen to, if you want to know the video, I have actually have a video in PyCon Taiwan, and you can look for my name over there. I did present this, and this is the only time, this is the only PyCon that I present this work. And the reason for me why I feel thrilled or feel excited about this project is I can not simultaneously, I can define any attributes, okay, any attributes according to the name that I want. Okay, so do check out that videos, and because I did a demo over there, so I can define any names that I want. Because something that fun about SQL query is sometimes you want to save it as a command, but in let's say in a conventional way of doing SQL is you save it either in a function or you save it somewhere. But sometimes you don't want to save every SQL queries to turn out to be a function. So you want to define is something that is more arbitrary, and then you save it as as a command that you want to use. So in my demo over there in this SQL client over there, so what I did is I can define any SQL command that I like with a name, and then I just go to my command prompt and type the name, and then it will do whatever that I want for that SQL query. Yeah, so this is something I actually feel thrilled about that. But sadly, no one actually noticed about this project or being fun about this thing by heavily using set attribute, get attribute, and has attribute. Yeah. Any questions that you want to ask apart from other kind of dark magic?
Yeah.
Because
I want
because
to ask.
yeah, go ahead.
I want to ask how not non-IT guy, non-IT background can get a chance to learn all these things,
Okay.
because I'm coming from a non-IT, and I'm not working as IT now in IT industry. So
Okay. Now I think Uh, for my case, I have to say that even though my daily jobs I deal with Python a lot, but in terms of learning something that is strange, I mean, I'll say as an IT guy, sometimes is quite non-IT guy is also difficult in the sense that you don't have the project to start with. So what I'll say, if you are working as non-IT, the best way for you to start coding in Python is start with data, because right now everybody, nearly everybody in Python is talking about data, so you can use it as a way to do that. So actually I have prepared something for this. If you look at this, so this is something that actually, if you want, you can start using Python as a very small project to do analysis of the data. Okay, so start with the project, something project like this, because when you just starting learning something, you're not going to have an idea that you're going to create something that's really grand or anything. No, you don't. You don't do that. So always start with some projects that is relevant to you. By means, when you sit down on the table, something's like, okay, what can I do? What can I use for Python to improve something that I want to use? Let's say, for example, one project probably you'll be interested. Let's say you want to start with that Docker. So probably what you can start with the project is, okay, how can I use the Python to monitor the behavior of the Docker? That can be one thing. So this is one thing that I always start out with, something small. How can I go to the internet and scrap the data using Python? That can be one thing that you can learn. Or another way that you can learn is you go through, read other people's code. So I still remember when I started learning Python in 2014, 2014, 2015. The things that interest me at that time when I learned is I saw this. Let's say, for example, and then they have this, and blah 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 return, and that was the time when we still have Python 2 point something. Okay, so this got me really interested when I saw one of the projects over there. Okay, so since it's very interesting, I begin to search for the symbols for this. It's called, eventually you know that this is called decorators. So one thing, decorators is something that is bizarre to me when I first started to learn Python, because I never know that there's such a thing that you can actually use it. So from there, slowly and slowly, when you find out something interesting from others' code, where you say, "Oh, okay, this is something new. I don't know that," then probably you can use it to explore it and then learn how to implement that into your code. So this is something that I would suggest if you want to learn about the Python in a way. Yeah. So this is my advice over there. I mean, I'm also coming from non-programmer or non-software development environment. I mean, I grew up in that way. So all the times I learn it through exploring. So in this case, a lot of black magics that I show tonight over here is my experience throughout my work, not just throughout my work, but also throughout a project that I built over the time. So from there, you can benefit a lot on how you can build this black magics around, you know, and you find out that, oh, okay, actually I can write in some way that it can actually helps me to enhance my code in a way. So this is kind of my advice for you if you ask me if you're currently are working in non-IT environment, but that, or maybe you can use the IT way methods to enhance the productivity of your company.